The 2024 job market has been a doozy. So if it's not me and it's not you, then what is it? What is going on? Controllers, CFOs, some of the most educated, experienced people that I've ever worked with, they're even having a hard time finding jobs. And so for me being, a lower level data analyst, financial analyst, it's just as hard even if there are more positions out there. What is going on? Like, why haven't these people that are more talented than me been able to get a better position? And whether you're unemployed looking for a new job, or if you are currently employed and looking for your next step up in life, this video is really catered to trying to break down what's happening in our job market and what can we do to really stand out from the pack in these massive AI filtered job applications. And I've noticed that I'll apply for 20 jobs in one day. And these are only jobs that have been posted within the past 1 to 3 days. Within the following day of me applying to it, I'll get an email saying that they are no longer hiring for the position, which means that it's not that the position got filled, it's that they chose to not include this position in their next budget that they're trying to complete, because whether it's the choice to just wait for the Fed to cut interest rates, whether it's waiting for an election to see what direction things are going to go, or waiting until 2025 for things to settle down, that feeling of waiting for these companies to decide, it's transitioning down to the people below, where it's just like, they have to wait. Like, I have to wait to buy, people have to wait to buy a new house. People have to wait in order to, get their next raise. People are just feeling like maybe I shouldn't even focus on applying to a new job right now until 2025, until things settle down. And so if all these employers, if the whole world is just in this mood of let's just wait and see what happens, what can we do about it? It's not a great feeling to feel stuck, that you're just waiting. So if we are in this moment of just things are slowed down, it's harder to find a new job. It's harder to do some of the same things that used to be much easier. Maybe it's just perception, but 2021 to 2023's job market seemed way more friendly. I think that the employees had a lot more say. We were able to negotiate like how much money that we wanted in order to start. You saw referral bonuses that were going crazy, like we'll do anything to hire you for this position. And there's been a huge shift from that, because what happened was in 2020, you had this massive layoff, all these businesses were closing. And then once these businesses were allowed to reopen, they had to rehire a lot of these employees, because those employees that got unemployed, they went and found another job. They had to go find a job, or they just chose to keep taking their unemployment checks, because we all know that there was some nice stimmy boosting happening for those checks. But today, the power is now in the employer's hands, because money isn't moving as freely as it used to be. So let's break down what exactly has gotten us here and what are the drivers for today's job market being how it is. The number one thing is inflation. And inflation is kind of spread through our economy in a few different ways. The first one is budget constraints. So the same way that in our households, the cost of electricity, the cost of fuel to go to work every day, rent, all of those have gone up. Insurance, that's gone up for employers too. And so let's do an example here. Let's say that a company is making 10% profit every year. Well, they plan to allocate 2% of those profits back to their employees getting raises every year. But now all of a sudden, that 10% profit is now 5% profit. That means that there's little to no room to even give out any raises. And that creates this thing called wage pressure. So for employees, we need the money to live. If you've been in a job where you haven't gotten a raise, it can be an incredibly frustrating experience, because you're noticing that with inflation, the cost of everything else around you keeps going up, but your income stays the same. And that is a very frustrating situation to be in. But for businesses, they can be in the same situation too, where they're not making any more income in order to transfer down to their employees. With wage pressure, there is competition for talent. So you might notice right now that there are some job postings. Let's say that if your job is normally paid $100,000 to do what you do, you're probably going to see a lot more job postings that are paying $80,000 for the same job, if not more advanced than you. And so there are a lot of job positions you're seeing out there where for the same job, they are trying to hire people on for the same task, the same requirements and responsibilities, but they're trying to pay them less. And so you're seeing a lot more job postings that are appearing like that. Or you'll see a job posting come out, they'll remove it and then repost it at a lower salary because they realized how much interest there was at that higher salary. Can they bring it down to a lower salary, like reduce it by 20,000, for example? And will they still get the same amount of traction and attention on that job application? That's what they're really testing when they're putting out these job apps and they're trying to hire, is what's our lowest prices point that we could fill this position for? And if they're really not getting what they want, might as well just remove the application from online. And during periods of high inflation like this for job hiring, these employers are going to be focused in on essential roles. So these are the things that they really need. In terms of like, that's why you probably see tech struggling so much, is because that is the sector of industry, or for businesses, that's how you grow, that's how you expand, that's how you gain like more business insights. But when you start to see like some struggle in the technology sector, for me, my own interpretation is that it means there is less money for people to invest into growing their businesses through technological means. And so they're probably just trying to cut costs. They're just trying to focus on different things. And if they're going to hire for a role, they're going to hire for something that is absolutely essential to driving revenue for the company or saving money for the company. So I went to look at data to compare the job growth between 2023 and 2024. So for job growth, the Bureau of Land Statistics revised its estimates for job growth by a total of 818,000 jobs. This estimates the job growth between March 2023 to March of 2024. So within 1 year, they had overquoted that, 800,000 jobs were created. And so when we're thinking about like, well, are we creating more jobs? Is the US economy growing? When we're adjusting our numbers down so drastically like that, it's not a great sign that we've been accurately measuring the amount of hiring, amount of unemployment, and it just kind of gets you questioning the reliability of our government's data and what they tell you. But moving on, that puts the average monthly job gain at 174,000 rather than the 242,000 that they previously reported. And that's an error of 68,000 jobs for each month if you were to average it out. So they were wrong by around 70,000 jobs every month during that 1 year, that they said we were creating these jobs, but they actually were not being created, they weren't being hired for. And then if we look at the unemployment rate, in August of 2024, the unemployment rate was 4.2%, which was higher than the 3.8% in 2023. And so in review, a lot of employers are in the same financial pinch as their employees, meaning that everything is more expensive, we all want to make more money, but it seems even hard to make moves for growth when it forces us into this painful waiting period of just hoping that money will start to flow more easily, hoping that employers will have some breathing room or that they will succeed. But it's hard for employers like these companies to make more money if us as employees aren't making enough money to want to spend more on frivolous things, right? Like, for example, like I live in Las Vegas. It's a whole city that's built off of vacation. That's that 10% that most people will save for, I mean, not everybody saves for vacation, like my whole generation just pays for vacations on credit cards. But Las Vegas's economy is based off of the 10% discretionary money that people have year over year that they do want to spend on vacation, that they do want to spend just going on hotels and traveling. So Las Vegas is an entire economy built around that tourism and that lavish lifestyle of wanting to spend money. And so I think that like whenever they talk about recessions, they always say that Las Vegas lags by like 2 years. Something like that, a year or two, whether it's for like the housing market crash or whether it's for, basically everything else. That's why a lot of people are looking forward to the Fed cutting interest rates, which they recently just did. And so just to kind of break it down for you, it makes home buying a little more affordable to the people in a position that are able to buy a home. And for businesses, it makes access to capital a little bit cheaper. So this is how business capital works. Let's say, for example, like you own a tow truck business and you have to buy a tow truck for your company. You need a new truck. So if you're spending $5,000 a month on your car payment, your tow truck payment, but you're able to generate $10,000 worth of income and revenue off of that $5,000 loan, then you're still able to create profit, and that profit can come back to employees. But just something as simple as that, like the little bit of interest rate that they would have to do to take out a loan to get a tow truck, or for any equipment, for any building, that difference of margin comes back to the employees. It comes back to the company as an overall benefit. And so when you see when you see interest rates come down, it helps because overall the price to a business, to consumers, starts to come down a little bit more too. But it's not necessarily like the actual price, it's more just the cost of the capital itself, which is the interest rate. So regardless of whatever the Fed does, if they continue to cut interest rates or if they don't, here's a few ways that you can have an edge in the job market during these uncertain times. Step number 1 is a little stupidly obvious, but it's update your resume. If you're serious about your job hunt, it's very likely that you've already done an update to your resume, but what I recommend doing is you think of the end in mind. So if you're ultimately trying to get a role as a data analyst, cater and tailor your resume to be exactly what that position is hiring for, or look up, like, this is what I did recently. If you go into ChatGPT, there's like just the app on your phone, you're able to attach a file into ChatGPT. So I put my resume in and I asked ChatGPT, hey, this is the job that I want. How would I change my resume in order to improve it and to be competitive for these roles? And so what's ultimately happening is that a lot of these companies that are hiring for these roles created the job description through ChatGPT or through some AI generative software. So whenever you're putting your resume, your application in through these processes, these massive job application filters, they're going to be looking for keywords that are mostly generated by AI. And so my thought process was, let me go to ChatGPT where all these employers are generating the job description, and let me ask ChatGPT, what are the keywords I need in order to fit those job descriptions? You are taking just the exact verbiage that they need. You're matching what the industry standards are. Like if you're calling, I can't even think of a specific one, but you might call a process something specific in your industry and in that company. But in the market whole, they don't know what that is because it's too specific to that company. And so almost talking to ChatGPT to rephrase what your job description was, what your responsibilities were, it creates more standardized understanding of what your actual experience is and what your real capability and skill set is. My second piece of advice is to open a LinkedIn account or to boost your LinkedIn account. So LinkedIn is essentially a social media, but just for professionals only. Like you don't see anybody's like religious views or anybody's family life on there so much. Like sometimes you'll see family if it correlates to work in some regards. My college professor 10 years ago told me to create a LinkedIn profile because as you go through college, you add those friends that you like learn things with, and then they go on to their careers. You go into your career, you'll see other professionals that you're working with on LinkedIn, you add them, and what essentially it does is it creates a network for you. And so it's your professional business network. And in college, especially if you go to a business school, the number one thing that they'll tell you is that your network is everything. And if you live in a city like Las Vegas or New York, especially in cities, having this strong network really helps you advance your career. So sometimes, the cool thing about LinkedIn is that you don't necessarily need to know somebody for LinkedIn to associate you to. Let's say that I have my old boss added on LinkedIn. They would be a first level connection. If my boss knows somebody that works for Tesla, then that would be a second level connection for me. And so it's an interesting thought process to see like how many connections are you away from somebody that's able to get you through the door of where you want it to be. And it really is just, it's kind of mind-boggling to think that you can know so many important people or people that are doing incredible things through LinkedIn once you start to see it kind of like on a network grid. Essentially, it can boost your application process if you are someone that is closer to that circle of whoever the recruiter is, whoever the employer is, because you are associated to that network. It creates a line of trust for you just by already knowing those people through your LinkedIn. And I've noticed that a lot more job applications, and I appreciate this, I will always put my LinkedIn on a job application if it has a field to do so, because it shows like, hey, I'm a real person. They can see your professional social media activity. Like if you were recognized at work, you can repost that. If you really like certain concepts about what a workplace environment should be, you can like those things, and they'll kind of get an idea of like what employee or what kind of mentality you have as a professional and where you want to go. So LinkedIn, great tool. There's a lot of resources on there too, but yeah, get connected through LinkedIn. And the other thing, you can also optimize it where you can use your keywords. You can apply through jobs through there. A lot of times recruiters will look on LinkedIn to find certain people. So if you're trying to get yourself out there, having like a professional branding space like LinkedIn is excellent. Number 3, the third and last thing that I can say on this is to get certifications and to just keep learning. You don't necessarily have to go to college in order to make more money or in order to like move up in that career path unless your career path actually requires it, like accounting. If you wanted to be a CPA, you're required for it. If you want to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. But there's a lot more you can do in order to create more income for yourself. We live in a world where YouTube and so many free online resources are out there. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to include a few in the description description below, just so that way if you are trying to learn some new skills and to get a certification, just check out any of those links below. edX by Stanford is one of my favorites right now. I'm taking a SQL coding course, and you don't have to pay for the course until the very end, like if you wanted the certificate. So you can take the whole course for free, have the knowledge for free, but if you did want the certificate to add it to your resume or to provide to future employers, you can pay for just that certificate at the end, which I thought was super cool. And again, with the certificate world, you don't know what certificates are actually going to help you get to that next level. It's not like there's one end-all be-all certificate that's like, yeah, you got it, you're instantly standardized across the industry, you can go anywhere you want to. There's not anything like that. And I think for the longest time, we were kind of lied to and told that a bachelor's degree is the key to everything. Every door is a bachelor's degree. And it's not really true, because once you start to get into like the thick of competing for these higher roles, and to eventually, like if you are a career professional and you're trying to break 6 figures someday, you're really, really competing with some of the best talent. And just getting a bachelor's degree just doesn't cut it like it used to. Some of the most successful people that I know are the people that have learned more and spent way more time committed to learning than anyone else. For example, I have a barber, and I look up to her so much because she's a multi-million-dollar real estate investor. She's incredibly wicked. She used to be a nurse for the Reagans, and when she tells me the story about when she was becoming a nurse, in order to really climb the ladder, it was endless schooling. So imagine being a single mom, you're working 70 hours a week as a nurse, on top of that you're probably going to school 25 to 30 hours a week. That's insane. It's insane. It's 2 jobs plus being a mom. Oh my God. But I think that stories like that, it's like she is at where she is because she put in so much sacrifice into her education. And even though she's only a barber right now, and this is like her soft retirement, she only does it for fun, even as a barber, she still works with doctors all over the world that will call her, and they'll have these discussions and scientific breakdowns over, like this new medical process or concept that they're all brainstorming on together. And it's neat. But just the value of constantly learning, it drives so much. Like if you start to get comfortable anywhere and decide like, oh, I'm not going to learn this new system integration that they're going through. I don't want to learn if you don't want to learn anything new, it's going to be the first strike against you. Because if you're going to be in the workforce, especially if you're doing something that's more career oriented and not necessarily like blue collar or like manual labor type of work, that learning component that's our sacrifice. For the people that do have to do manual labor, there's the cost for them of like their physical breakdown. Like you can't physically do that work forever, right? Well, the cost for being a white collar is you have to learn or else you're going to get stuck. And it's very easy to get stuck and then get cut out of the race with all these like potential like layoff concerns that are floating about. But that's essentially it. Keep learning. Really, please keep learning, because that's the only thing that continues to drive your edge. The world is constantly changing around us, and if we're not willing to change ourselves for our own betterment, not change for the sake of the world, to change with the world, but to just keep constantly allowing that change and to kind of embrace it, we can't allow ourselves to get comfortable or complacent in a workplace. It's a risky place to be. So if you watched up to this point in the video, thank you so much. I know I haven't done one in a while, but I really enjoyed filming this one. I don't know, talking about careers is just something that I'm very passionate about, because it's how, like, the work that you do matters, right? It's like, it should be something that's important to you. It should be something you find purpose in, that you have fun doing. And like in any job, there's going to be things you love and things you hate, the same way with like doing these YouTube videos. Sometimes I really love filming them, and then majority of the month I have anxiety before even filming them. So yeah, but anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please check out any of my book reviews or any of the other random blog discussions that I do. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks.